Titterpigs, oh yeah. They're gonna talk about sweet, sweet RPGs. And it's the Titterpigs, the RPG podcast. Am I getting paid for this one?
All right, listeners, welcome back to a combined episode, a special episode, in fact, of the Titterpigs and Orcusdorkus RPG Shenanigans over on YouTube, or whatever Scott decided he wanted to call it. First off, before we get into any of this, I have to give a little preface. For the record, we are going to talk. First, we're going to talk about Pendragon and our experience with Pendragon over many, many months. Mm-hmm. But I work freelance for Chaosium from time to time on the Pendragon product line as a final proofreader before it goes to press. So anything that I say is my opinion alone. It does not represent anything. I do not represent the company, and anything I say from this point forward, it is my opinion alone. So I just want to say that.
Right. Yeah. And so, we are here to discuss the Pendragon game that we all have been playing here for, several months, starting with the starter set and rolling into the Grey Knight. And over that period of time, several releases came out. The core book, the Game Master's book, or whatever it's called. We have notes. But and then
we're professionals.
We are professionals, but primarily we're here to talk about our experiences, our opinions on the game, maybe do some comparisons between the older edition and the newer edition, and maybe highlight some of our favorite moments and favorite fumbles and foibles that occurred during our game session. And just to note, this was done utilizing the Chaosium. Yes, thank you. The Game Master's Handbook. Thank you, Pookie. Pookie's just here to, for highlight references. So
Pookie is our Vanna White.
Exactly. Ding. But anyways, we utilized the virtual tabletop created from Roll20 for the starter set and the Grey Knight, and likewise the core rule book. The Game Master's Guide is not out on BTT yet. I'm not sure, but anyways, but more importantly though, during the discussion there will be spoilers. We will try our best to kind of work around certain things, but just be forewarned, we will be talking about the Sword campaign from the starter set, and likewise things borrowed from the two core books, and of course the Grey Knight. So, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and introduce our lovely panel today. Starting with the person on our right, or on my right, Pookie. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Pookie. I am a veteran a Pendragon player, having played several editions, or going all the way back to the first. And in this campaign from the starter set, I played the character Gwynhilda, who is definitely not Brienne of Tarth.
Thank you, Pookie. And then next we have Neve. Hi, Neve.
I've played Pendragon years ago and recently again.
Yeah.
Can't remember half of it, but yeah, in this game I'm playing Tamora, who starts off with the bow, and for some reason, due to some unlucky rolls, I'm now a psychotic loony.
Fact.
Oh, yes, and we will definitely touch on the several reckless psychotic moments that Dame Tamora brought everyone through, for good or worse. So, and then last we have Roy. Hi, Roy.
Hi. I played Pendragon back in the 80s a bit. We didn't do a massive amount, but we did do a bit, and I always wanted to do more, but we had a couple of players who kind of bounced off the system, couldn't quite grok it. So this was great getting back into it. I played originally Sir Asterius, Greek knight from Constantinople, or representative emperor in Constantinople to Arthur's court. And then when he died at the end of the starter set, I started playing Sir Aristelios, his brother, who's come over to find out what on earth has happened to me.
And one person we are missing here is our friend Roz. She could not make it, but I believe this was her introduction to Pendragon. Such was mine. And she played Dame Linnell from the starter set onward through the Grey Knight. But we also have one more player, and you already know him. But Keith, say hi. And who did you play a couple times?
Hi. I played several people. The first two were so unimpressively unimportant. I don't even remember their names from the starter set. They died so fast that they're just unimportant. But in the latest game, in the Grey Knight, I played Sir Eustace, who is the brother of the last idiot who died. And from time to time, I played this, had to take on the persona of the Squire, Robert the Bastard. So, that's who I played.
Right.
And not forgetting the one that went mad and ran off into the woods.
Well,
that was a highlight I was going to save for later.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll return to that.
Yeah, there was no shortage of people, losing their mind and running off, Arthurian style through the forest, and sometimes
True story.
Sometimes by their own roles, and sometimes by someone else's who was taking care of their character when they couldn't make it. But we will get to that also later. So, well, let's go ahead and dive in. So as I had mentioned, Pendragon is this is my first introduction playing it. I picked up whatever the last version was, the 5.5 core rulebook, and paged through it. Never really did much with it, but obviously I've been a fan of Arthurian legend, movies, and all things such as that over the years. And there's no shortage of knowledge and introduction into King Arthur and whatnot through the worldwide zeitgeist that exists. But the game itself, when I had what started it all off is there was a very short contest online. David Larkins had posted something, and the first few people who commented on something got the free edition or free copy of the starter set, VTT through Roll20. I was the first to comment and got it, and I thought, hey, this would be a great way to get into the game and gather together all y'all and decided let's see how this goes. This would be a nice introduction. Prior to playing that, I did run through the introductory part of the Sword campaign at Strategicon. Very, very horribly done. I had barely understood the rules at the time. I didn't do a lot of prep. Kind of made our way through certain aspects of it, not entirely sure how it played out. Things were a bit confusing, but it wasn't all bad. People had a good time, and it definitely was not Space 1889 for those who know about that story. So, but it
is connected.
It's all there's always connections, but was a little bit better prepared for this one, but still that would be. We'll see how the review sheet goes from you all when we're done here on how well I did as a GM, because there were many times of going, does anyone remember how this works? But such is the way.
I do want to interject here for the record. Let's lay this foundation. For the record, I was player and rules
assistant. You were like
yes.
Paralegal. You were like a paralegal.
Yes. I'm over here like off camera when we're playing, like going through the PDFs and the physical books because I own all the books too. So
yes,
yeah.
You brought.
I was Scott's rules referencer.
Yes, you brought me. You were definitely my rules referencer. You brought me coffee and sat on my lap to take notes. You good job.
Yes, I did.
You'll get a raise next year.
No.
So the starter set itself is an introductory campaign to Pendragon. It comes with a solo adventure for you to play through to kind of familiarize yourself somewhat with the rules. Likewise, the sword campaign itself is kind of a a hand-holding process. You discover the rules of the game as you go through it, even though there is a separate book with the rules. Excuse me. And likewise, a few sheets to reference other things within there, whether it's part of the campaign or not. But the materials themselves do provide you a good foundation to play the Pendragon game without the necessity of the core rule books off the bat. So the game itself, the sword campaign, brings you in, and then, of course, Pookie, Neve, Roy, and Keith, correct my memory of lore anytime you want, because I'm sure it will need to be corrected at some point. But generally speaking, the game brings you in right at the beginning of the famous tournament to see who can pull the sword from the stone. At the tail end of the Chaos Years, I believe it's called, or the Anarchy Years, something such as that. And your knights are heading into Londinium to take part of this and witness the events that occur that bring you into the Boy King years after Arthur pulls from the sword from the stone, and you engage in several different shenanigans there throughout. Likewise, I believe the campaign ends with the defeat of Sir Lot, and what's that? King Lot. Yes, sorry, King Lot, and then, essentially, again, it lays the foundation to decide should you want to continue on into other story arcs within the GM's guide and the Grey Knight. So, Keith, now that I've rambled through all of that nonsense, how about, why don't you start us off with this within, bring us into the starter set, and if you have any questions regarding that, we'll lay into that. And mind you, everyone, this is an open-ended roundtable discussion, so it can go anywhere and everywhere. Just fair warned. Which is
entirely appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. So Keith, do you have anything to start us off into the starter set, and then I'll lay down any things from there. Okay.
Yeah. So just for our esteemed panel, how did you guys feel that Did you guys feel that the starter set conveyed the basics of Pendragon as a way of teaching the rules to you?
I think so. Yeah, I think saying that, I mean, I'm coloured by the fact that having played Pendragon before, I was reasonably familiar, and it's not like there's been any real change to the core mechanics. But yeah, it did. I mean, if anything, the main thing it did was gave you a good grounding in Arthurian Britain, like the Britain of Mallory and Crichton de Troyes and the Vulgates and things. So gave you a good setup, because that's what the whole thing about the rules is. It's there to recreate that. It's not there to recreate a historical Dark Ages Britain. So
yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Neve, Pookie?
I
mean, I know you're both relatively veteran players, so.
Well, I played it on and off. I played a lot of other games in between. Since then. But no, I think it got us all back up to speed. You got to play with bits of the character slowly and surely through the adventure, so you didn't have it all off in one go. I think it does its job admirably in that respect, and it slowly builds on it. And then we find out as the books come out that all the extra bits that they left out initially, because that it's an introductory set of rules. You haven't got the full gambit as we kick off, but no, it works definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, going back to previous editions, essentially. The beginning scenario in those is the basically you go on the hunt for brigands and boars or whatnot, and then get knighted and so on, and that's been sort of like a foundational scenario for all of the previous editions. This is really designed to kind of funnel you into playing the sort of the setup for the Grey Knight. And then subsequent parts of the Great Pendragon campaign. And essentially, really, you've got quite a bit of a tight plot line at the beginning of the starter set, and then it gets a little bit more expansive, where you get sent across the country. So you're given more responsibility. You get to see more and more of the rules. So it does got a nice step-by-step process of taking you through sort of like the very basics of being a knight, and then giving you responsibility to go and be a knight.
Mm-hmm. So the system itself is a D20 roll under system. Is that how it's always been, or was it?
Yes,
so
yeah.
it never followed the traditional BRP. So it was something separate from the BRP establishment.
If you squint, you can see BRP in there.
Yeah,
it's basically
I mean, you go far enough back. RuneQuest is a 5% increment initially.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a D20. So
yeah, I mean, basically, think of it's taking essentially the structure of the BRP system, dividing it by 5 mechanically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hence, if you squint, there's BRP under the hood somewhere.
Yeah. But I think it's more refined and it's less crunchy, and in many ways, I think it's kind of, in some ways, kind of BRP perfected, really.
It definitely it feels like that in certain areas. Now, of course, there are other aspects to it
it's some of the side rules where it gets a little bit core mechanic. So
sure.
Yeah. Well, we can come back to that
sure.
as we get to as we get to some of the stuff. But so as the story progressed, now I know I didn't play the entirety of the scenario in the starter set because of my characters died and then work obligations came up and I had to bow out before I came back for this latest one. However, because I worked on the project, I know what the story's all about anyways. Now, as the story progressed and more rules were building on top of each other, now comes that other question what we were just alluding to. So as additional rules were then layered on top of each other, when you guys moved away from just the basic core things and then additional things were added in, like when we move away from like 5.1, 5.2 version of the game, and we start adding in elements of the old supplemental books from like the Book of Battles, 2nd edition and stuff like that from the previous edition. And we now have battle cards and things like that try to streamline some of these mass battles and focus on the characters and things like that, and deal with the height adjustments and positioning and things like that. How did you guys find that layering of the rules as it was trying to build off of the basics?
Could I predicate it with something from the GM side before we dive into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the first things that you do in the starter set is there's the aspect of the tournament, which utilizes these battle cards, and it starts off with the jousting aspect. Well, I'm sorry, not the battle cards, but the jousting aspect of it all. Now, that which is an abstraction. The battle cards, the jousting, they're all based upon certain set parameters that tell you how many rounds you will be utilizing, doing what you're supposedly doing, jousting, fighting, or whatever. And it does kind of jump you into that at a certain point to kind of give you a little taste of it before you go into like your first real mass battle combat. And one of the things, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of felt like, at least in this aspect, when you're doing the tournament, you only do it for, I believe it was a single round, maybe 2, before chaos breaks loose because Arthur pulls his sword from the stone and everyone's running over there to see that. And likewise, you're utilizing bladed weapons and whatnot. From my perspective, when I ran it the first time, and likewise for you guys, I kind of felt like it didn't do enough. It was just kind of like, here's a little something that's part of the storyline, but it really didn't prepare you for what was to come with the coming battle that followed that. So that would be kind of like that would be your first impression of it. So I kind of walked away from it feeling, well, not entirely sure how this worked, just because we didn't do it enough. And then when we had to go into the first mass battle that occurred, then it was just like, okay, now it's starting to make sense. Now I got to do a little bit of research and be prepared. So just kind of wanted to throw that out in the beginning. So, okay. But anyways, anyone else?
I mean, I think by the time we kind of got to the battles, it was kind of the groundwork had been laid just about. I mean, it was quite of a big adjustment to the battles, because essentially the battles are quite odd, that you kind of feel like you're being set up to run at particular sets of opponents, almost like no, you're in lane 5, you're in lane 9,
right?
So. But there is this promise of sort of going, oh, something interesting might happen. There might be some, you might be another an opportunity for glory or role playing or something. But that didn't seem to come up, and I was sort of wondering, well, the chances of that felt really very low. But the overall battle rules, I kind of go, they're okay, but they just seem to take a lot of time.
Right. So I don't know how many of you took a look at the rules afterwards, right? But the battles themselves are very, I mean, when I say very, I don't mean negative, but they are very scripted as far as event wise. Now, creating your own battles with the core rule books or something that you can do, and they walk you through it. But in the starter set, again, which as it should be, is a scripted battle. So the battles go so many points within there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events, could occur. And so there are scripted events. Now, these scripted events happen whether you guys are battling or not. But if you are currently on the battlefield, these could affect you either way. So it definitely, so the battle is going to end with a set result, kind of regardless of what you all are doing. But primarily what you're getting is you're getting glory, which is, the meta currency of Pendragon. But it's so I guess here's a question for you all. So the whole purpose of the mass battle system is an abstraction, right? So we're not going, hey, okay, everyone, put your books down. I'm going to get out the miniatures. We're going to get out the ruler, and we're going to do Warhammer 40K for 3 hours while we, decide the Battle of Carleon for the next 8 days. But it's meant to, in cinematic terms, zoom in on you as the main characters. What you are confronting is essentially one part of a larger battle. Things are going on around you, thus the reason for the various events. But again, it's still a determined amount, meaning there were several times where you guys were jousting or fighting, but regardless of what you were doing, everything ended in 2 rounds, 3 rounds, sometimes 4, depending on the situation with your characters. So do you all feel that did a decent job of providing this kind of abstraction of mass battle? Or did it kind of just feel like maybe like an odd skirmish situation with not really the resolution that you may be expecting from it? So any thoughts on that?
Well, if you're playing in a role-playing game, I've generally found most role-playing games struggle with the idea of mass battles.
Yeah.
And a battle should be a story that you're only a small part of.
Like Pookie was saying,
So sometimes it's nice to know, a greater idea of what's going on around you. But then again, the reality of being in battle is you're only going to know your little bit. So, for you might think you're getting absolutely hammered and you're losing the battle, but elsewhere things are going much better and things like that. So it does break it down in a bit of a mechanical way that I think actually, it's scripted. The battles are going to be scripted for the big event battles. There's no getting around that. We know if you've read your Lamort Arthur, you know what the results of the battles are going to be. But that's true of anything other than until you get to later on, you're sort of leading your own armies into battle and things like that. That's completely generated.
Right.
So I didn't have a problem with it. It is a little bit. I found it a little bit mechanically clunky.
Okay.
But I think that was in part just because all of us were trying to learn the new system.
True.
And
True.
give it a couple of battles. I think by the end of it, we were certainly getting. It was getting a lot smoother.
Yeah.
I mean, the
And
battle
faster.
and faster. I mean, the battle my first character, when my first character died in, I think was our second or third battle, and that went much more smoothly, and it felt far more organic. So yeah, I think it was more to do with us getting used to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
what do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
I have opinions.
Yeah, but well, I mean, things. What about the actual setup for this? The abstraction battle. Like, Neve, one of the things that Dame Tamora had to deal with, of course, was the reckless aspect. But certain roles were required, and things needed to be done before we even got into this. So,
as soon as the recklessness started taking over, we had the advantage that on the first hit, I was really good, which saved our ass at least once, where everyone else was basically on horse, and I was basically smacking everything to save us.
Yeah.
The recklessness is a two-edged sword, though. It got me wounded, and I was absolutely screwed after our first big battle or second battle.
Right.
That lack of shield is...
Oh.
You feel it as soon as you get hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, Pookie brought up a good point. Then we'll roll it over to you, Keith. But yeah, there are aspects to it in hindsight, looking at the rules, that could provide opportunity for role playing. I mean, of course, there's the instance of lose or defeat. There's the taking hostage of knights and ransoming them off, if we remembered to do that. But likewise, there's, as far as any particular aspects of role playing, there could be instances of that, but with everything that kind of all the pieces that fall together in this mass combat abstraction, it does increase, the amount of time required for it. So I don't know if I think at a certain point there was a bit of streamlining that was maybe going on even subconsciously in some of these things, just to kind of, I wouldn't say get through it quickly, but to get to the next story point of the reason why this battle is happening, so we can carry on with it. So, but Pookie, the role playing aspects that you had mentioned, is there a particular reference that you were considering? Because go ahead.
Not that I can recall from memory, but it was the points of sort of like you kind of brought up things. There are opportunities for just for heroic events and other basically other events, rather than just being on our horses and riding at the enemy. And I don't think any of them. Very few, if any of them, came up that I can recall.
No, and that's because the system itself, you're provided a deck of cards. And the cards are drawn at random, and the player knights here, depending on different aspects of meta currency that they have available to them, can elect to do this particular event. 15 picks, you're fighting with someone, or the Knights of whatever.
Gore.
Yeah, the Knights of Gore.
Yeah,
and within there are special events, but you kind of have to draw them. Now, as a GM, I could essentially just say, here you go. Here's something to that, if you're asking for a special event, here it is. You don't necessarily have to rely on the just the randomness of the cards. But again, we were kind of feeling our way through it. And yeah, it was fairly rare. I can't recall of a single instance where one of these special events came up, or if it did, it was nothing anyone wanted to do. I
think that was the case. I think we got one that basically
Yeah.
It was like, no, let's just do the normal.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think possibly the nearest thing we had to do it we had was actually facing like single knights.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we did that, didn't we? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think you went into a single night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was just
go
going to
ahead, Keith.
say, I think between the starter set part that I was part of and then the Grey Knight, just those battles, since the kind of conversation is kind of including both.
Yeah.
Experiences are including both stories here.
Of course.
My issues or concerns with mass battles, learning it and then later on experiences with it, transitioning from one engagement to the next, going with the cards or the representation of cards, is like Pookie said, okay, are we in lane 7? Are we in lane 9? Are we transitioning from lane 7 to lane 9? Like, that's where, to me, it felt clunky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, we're immersed in, say fighting the Knights of Gore, and then all of a sudden it's, now we have to decide, are we doing A, B, C, D, or special event? And then literally
it's Irish Kerns now. Just
right. It's a complete break of immersion.
Yeah.
Now that on the GM,
Mm-hmm.
that puts the entire onus on you to go weave it as a narrative.
Yeah.
Like, how do we transition from one to the other?
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to break immersion to give us the chance to decide what it is we're going to do. Are we going to split our conroy and go different directions? Are we staying as one conroy? What are we doing? That's where I felt, as somebody who has been playing the game since the 90s, the mid 90s with 4th edition and off and on again since then, and have read all the current material because I've worked on it all. So I have a good understanding of it. I'm not by means any expert with it, but I have a good understanding of it. That's where I find that it just feels a little clunky, if that makes sense, where we have to break immersion in the story, in the fiction, to go, okay, what do you guys want to do? And then now if we were all seated at a physical table, and while we're currently doing something, we're finishing a battle and you slid some cards in front of us, and while we're finishing a battle, we can, somebody just literally picks what we're doing and you can go, okay, now, on your right flank is this, and on your left flank is this, and ahead of you, beyond the corpses of the Knights of Gore.
Right.
Huh?
Picks.
Right.
It's always picks. Yeah.
It's always picks. It's always picks. Right. And then somebody's like, I'm going to charge, I'm still on horseback. I'm going to charge at the picks. And all of a sudden we decide we're going full bore at the picks. And that's where the story goes.
Sure.
I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to give as much player option and player autonomy as possible. Yeah. Well, I can't help feeling that with most of the battles, they could have actually, they would have been more memorable if they had been more scripted. Right. That getting
agreed.
Actually, I don't think I think that'll, you've got the autonomy. I can go for an easier target this time. We took a lot of damage last time. I can go for an easier target. But that kind of detracts actually from the feeling of being in battle, because you're up against what you're up against. You don't have much choice in the matter.
Right.
Yeah.
A bit more scripting actually.
Yeah. But pre-scripting by the game master, where the game master has those options and they go, okay, I'm going to set them up to do A, C, B, and this special event, and then that's going to be the 4 rounds of the battle, and that's going to be their battle sequence.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Pookie. No, go ahead.
I was going to say either that, or you say you've got these battle cards for the opponents. You actually create a deck particular to the battle.
Yes.
Yeah. Which they did, right? So in the starter set, there's more cards than there are for particular battles. They do kind of script them, but they still are. It's it's, one card for a particular type, another card for a particular type. Of course, you can multiply them or use them more than once, depending on the situation. But specifically, there's 5 or 6 cards to lay out or more, for the player knights during the course of the battle. Now, I did hear, bringing, kind of making it a bit more broader, scripted a little bit more, getting prepared a little bit better. There could be aspects of that within the Game Master's Guide. I have not read it through its entirety, nor would creating a battle be the top thing on my list if I was doing my own Pendragon game. There's other things, but I think, kind of jumping ahead just slightly, sitting down and actually reviewing it and, realizing this is how I do it, and then this is now what I want to do to kind of make it your own. There was the big thing that stands out to me was the kind of off the cuff feast that we did at the end of the Great Night. And then a few weeks later, me actually sitting down and putting forth some effort to do the wedding feast for Roy, which I felt a lot more confident. I knew what I was doing, and it just, it played out a lot more better. Did I follow the rules exactly? No, not entirely, but it was still, someone who sat down would recognize it as a traditional feast. I think the same would probably apply combat. Like, the wonderful aspect of being a GM is, when it's all said and done, hindsight sets in, after the what do they call it?
The dust settles?
Yeah, no. Anyways, I don't want to linger on that, but going, oh, okay, now this is how I feel doing it my way, and having a better understanding of it. But so rolling into the starter set, so the big thing about one of the big things that they teach you is combat. Now we ran into some issues. The way combat is structured, as far as in the mass combat aspect, seemed to work fine. As far as the combat procedures in Pendragon have declarations. You declare your combat actions, you resolve the combat actions. There's the winner's outcome, loser's outcome, and then movement. But one of the things that they throw you into is your knights end up guarding a clarent, the sort of piece that is pulled from the stone, which I was one of the people that found out, wait, it's not Excalibur? What nonsense is this? Who wrote this nonsense? But one of the things that we ran into the issue with is in the skirmish combat, actual kind of like, you're meeting up with, you're not doing horseback combat riding, you're not doing a tournament, but it's just your traditional RPG, you against, a group of foes. So one of the things that we kind of ran into with that within the combat round was the declarations and the tiers that they fall through. One of them being the movement aspect. Now, what are your opinions on the combat procedures? Again, are they similar to how it was in previous editions, or is this also something new to this edition on how, combat plays out? Keith?
I have thoughts. So in all honesty, it had been a long time since I had played earlier editions, so I can't remember the combat sequencing. So I can't make that comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with movement at the end. I know that's the one thing we struggled with because we all struggled with it initially.
Right.
And some of us continued to struggle with it throughout the entirety of the game. Until we had the wedding feast and ended it all. Because traditionally, combat in other games is part of, or movement is part of combat, and you can move and attack, or you move first, then attack, or whatever. Movement is not relegated to the end of the combat sequence. And that it is a complete rewriting of your brain, rewiring of your brain and thinking.
Well, I think it's most role-playing games, combat is tactical, and it's not Pendragon. It's not a tactical combat.
Yeah.
You're not particularly using terrain to your advantage. You're not using these amazing abilities. Your knights charging at each other and twatting each other as hard as you can. And that's Pretty much. I mean, there might be, might be an ogre rather than a knight or a giant, but it's still the basic same concept. And your initial charge into combat is a roll. So I had no problem with it. I
Right.
did struggle. I'm used to movement, then doing it.
Right.
But that was just a matter of just getting used to it. Wasn't an issue.
It's one of those things that I think probably what occurred to me was after the fact. So the game itself doesn't provide you with tactical maps or even maps just as a reference, right? And I created one thinking, okay, this will provide at least an idea of the church that they're in, and the sword is laid out up on the altar. But like Roy had said, there really wasn't necessary, and that could have added to the confusion, because suddenly you're dealing with tactical aspects of this particular Pict, and of course it's Picts who broke into the church to steal the sword, is over here, and Sir Clarion is over there, and you've got so
Probably
much.
the best that Roz isn't here, to be fair.
Right.
She hates pigs.
Yeah. And also her character.
Yes, both hate pigs.
But it's going into it, it's still that traditional RPG mindset of even just providing a map just as a reference. Suddenly you're thinking in tactical, and now, but it's not like you said, Roy. It is, it is a procedure, but not a tactical procedure. So that could have added to the confusion. But
I would also add, though, that even still like hemmed us up even without a map when we were in the Grey Knight and we were encountering, was it the ogre?
Yes.
Ogres? Sorry for spoilers, people. But
well, to be fair, the Grey Knight has been out for almost about 40 years.
I know, right? But with the hut and everything
we
else,
accidentally walked into.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That was a random encounter.
That was I screwed up the tracking roll. We ended up there by accident.
Yeah. But, when we were trying to like cinematically deal with that combat, it was, we were incorporating, we all of a sudden defaulted to our dinosaur brains from other games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of putting movement at the end, and it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it was far more cinematic. It was, from that end, it was far more entertaining for what we did. Cause we had some crazy shenanigans,
mm-hmm.
And it provided a lot more entertainment, but it did not follow the structure of the combat round. No, combat does get tactical in the sense that there are plenty of options for a player knight to choose from for their declaration.
Not Dame Tamora, it's reckless.
Yeah, well, it's just reckless for Dame Tamora. That's the only flippant option available to her.
I mean, there, I've played Pendragon last year with 2 other Fs as well at conventions.
Yeah.
Yeah, this moving last. No.
Yep.
Everyone basically just rules that out straight away. It's all the combat was fear of mind anyway, where there's no tactical map, you're kind of like moving closer or further away, and it was just more cinematically done. You pick what you're doing, you go defensive or offensive or reckless, and get on with it.
Right.
And that's now in the 2 conventions that worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Chaosium Con, so
Now I would offer this on that, having played a bunch over the years, and having listened to like David Larkin's podcast where he has run the game, this particular edition of it, and previous editions of it. Now, the movement at the end works better in mass combat.
Yes.
But when you are doing single night on night combat in a very much in a more cinematic skirmish environment, like when we were defending the sword in the church, I can, movement intermixed with your actions provides for a more engaging, cinematic, enjoyable experience. Movement in mass battles you do what you're doing, and then as long as you're not engaged and you need to move to reposition yourself for the next encounter or next round of combat, that's when movement is happening. You're wheeling around, you're doing things on a grander tactical level from a military standpoint.
There's only 3 aspects to movement. Again, kind of in hindsight, as you become more familiar with the rules, there's it's essentially far, close, or something else such as that. Close quarters, normal, and long. So,
right.
What in my brain, what that rolls into is, for example, the like a Modifius game, which deals with zones. And what helps my brain deal with that is having like, it's not a map, but it's more like a zone reference. Like, okay, Pookie, Dame Gwenheld, I've got a token here, and she's long. Dame Tamora, normal. Oh, that's nice. And so on, as opposed to, but everything else is theater of the mind, just to kind of have a reference point with the movement. And that might help it move more smoothly, because in other games, they have that, like just a simple circle, close, and then another circle around there and another circle around there just to notate the location. And something like that could be beneficial for many of us who struggle, dividing that tactical movement aspect. But again, as Neve said, I'm not the only one. We're not the only ones who just said, movement is going to be what we want it to be, and everything else works perfectly fine. It doesn't break the game if movement's not your jam. So
and the other thing is that Dame Quinheld can't help but be long. She is size 16.
I think that would make you long and normal. You're in 2 distance zones at that point.
With that axe, definitely. Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Roy.
do love that. I don't know if this was something you were going to like.
Sure.
But it's once you do get into the grit of the combat, it's such a simple, straightforward opposed roll. It's always an opposed roll, and it hurts. It really, you're lucky if you don't come out. If you come out without any bruises or serious injuries and stuff, and it really feels brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And I just really.
I mean,
it also replicates if you read your Mallory and stuff, it's exactly like it is in the book. So you when you're playing it, it's exactly like it is in the book. So yeah.
But I mean, at this stage of the setting, you're also wearing less effective armor as well. So as the Great Pendragon continues and Arthur's reign continues, you'll get armor that is better and sort of like more like you imagine because you've watched Excalibur.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah. We're in chainmail, and some of us might have a bit of partial plate.
Yeah.
As it goes on, you end up right to the end in full Gothic. So
yeah. For those who aren't too familiar with the rules, I'll try to break it down briefly, and of course, fill in any gaps if I miss something. But of course, there's the opposed roll, and if you either succeed or you don't. But there's also a tier of successfulness that is matched on the table, and sometimes the outcomes allow you to utilize your shield if you have one. Sometimes they don't. It all depends on that. So, depending on your success, damage is rolled. And one of the things that, the damage needs to do, it needs to go over whatever your armor is, and anything past that is what physically hurts you. But the other brutal aspect of it is, of course, with any weapon, whether it be swinging a sword or, jousting with a lance, there's the momentum aspect. You're going to get knocked on your ass. Because there's a giant piece of metal or a horse 10 times stronger than you with a giant piece of wood running at you. It's not just damage. So there's the potential of a dexterity type roll that needs to be made to see if you're knocked off or down, which if you knocked off your horse, that adds more damage to your roll. And then if you reach a certain threshold, you then need to make a constitution type check to see if you took so much damage it didn't kill you, but it knocked you the fuck out. And in a perfect world, all of those things happen. And on top of that, someone like Dame Tamora gets a critical and adds another 4 times damage to what you had. Yeah, and the first
fucks you up.
It's more a case of rolling lucky as well.
Major wound either, is it?
Yeah. Oh, and then of course there's the major wound aspect,
which can have permanent debilitating.
Yeah. And I mean the consequences of this is the fact that healing takes time as well.
Yes.
So, it is brutal.
Yeah. Combat's absolutely brutal. Healing from combat is brutal. Like, first aid is not like really a thing. I mean, it's kind of a thing, but anything beyond gaining back a point or two one time. Yes, I think 3's max.
It's 3 hit points.
Yeah.
And if they fumble, they give you a bloody aggravated wound. Thank you, whoever did that to me right at the start.
Yeah.
That was probably me.
Yeah, my first character, Sir Asterius, spent most of the starter set either with his arm in a sling or bandages around something. I barely spent any time on full hit points.
I think you and me both went into the final battle with an aggravated wound, and I got lucky. You didn't.
Yeah.
Well, the second round of the battle, I took a major wound, but managed to stay conscious. And then
that was it. I went unconscious, didn't I? So I got out of it.
You got out of it. I was conscious, so I had the option of staying out the third round of the battle, but I decided no, he's going in. So he went in El Cid's tied to his horse. He immediately took a Saxon axe to the chest, and that was that's a big Dane axe right to the chest, and that was it. Just galloped up the horizon tied to his horse,
right off in the
off into the sunset.
One of my favorite scenes.